12,000 years. That's how long this thing was sleeping. Not decades, not centuries. 12,000 years. Since before the pyramids, before the Stone Age, before humans had figured out how to plant wheat. And on one Sunday morning in November 2025, it woke up. And what it threw into the sky didn't just terrify the people standing beneath it. It crossed oceans. It grounded planes over India. It drifted over China. And it forced scientists around the world to confront a question they had been quietly avoiding. What else is waiting to wake up? Let me take you to the place where this happened, because the location matters. It matters more than you think. There's a region in northeastern Ethiopia called the Afar Depression.
Now, some Indian airlines have cancelled flights because of massive ash plumes from an Ethiopian volcano.
12,000 years blasting volcanic ash and sulfur dioxide some 10 to 15 kilometers into the altitude.
If Earth has a wound, this is it. It's a sunken desert where three tectonic plates are pulling apart from each other like slow-motion shrapnel. The ground here cracks. The land sinks. Temperatures regularly exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Salt flats stretch to the horizon, broken only by ancient lava fields and the shimmer of heat haze. Almost nobody lives here. Almost nobody watches what happens here. And that's the problem. Because buried in this furnace of a landscape is a chain of volcanoes called the Erta Ale Range. And at the southern end of that chain sits a low, flat, wide mountain that doesn't look like a volcano at all. No dramatic cone, no Hollywood peak, just a broad dome rising about 500 meters above the desert floor, with gentle slopes that spread outward like a shield lying flat on the ground. That's actually what geologists call it, a shield volcano. And its name is Haile Gubi. For all of recorded human history, Haile Gubi did nothing. No eruptions, no lava, no drama. According to the Smithsonian Institution's Global Volcanism Program, it had no confirmed eruptions during the entire Holocene epoch, the geological period that started roughly 12,000 years ago when the last ice age ended. Scientists had it filed away under dormant. Some probably thought extinct. It was one of the most understudied volcanoes on the planet, sitting in one of the most remote deserts on Earth. And then came November 23rd, 2025. At approximately 11:30 in the morning local time, the ground shook. A resident of the nearby village of Afdera, named Ahmed Abdella, later described the moment to the Associated Press. He said it felt like a sudden bomb had been thrown, with smoke and ash. That's what 12,000 years of silence sounds like when it breaks. Not a rumble, a detonation. Within minutes, a towering column of gray ash and volcanic gas was rising vertically from Haile Gubi's summit. Not oozing lava, which is what shield volcanoes are supposed to do. This was an explosive eruption, a violent upward blast that punched ash and debris 9 miles straight into the sky, reaching altitudes of nearly 15 kilometers, well into the upper troposphere. NASA's Aqua satellite captured the eruption about 4 hours after it began. The image showed a massive gray plume stretching northeast from Ethiopia, already crossing the Red Sea. Now here's where this story stops being a local event and starts becoming a global one. That plume didn't just hang in the air above Ethiopia, it moved. Carried by upper-level winds, the cloud of ash, fine glass particles, and sulfur dioxide began drifting east. First over Yemen and Oman, then across the Arabian Sea, then over Pakistan. And then, by Monday night, it reached India. The Toulouse Volcanic Ash Advisory Center in France, which monitors exactly these kinds of atmospheric threats, issued urgent warnings. The ash had reached commercial flight altitudes, around 45,000 to 50,000 feet. And volcanic ash isn't like regular dust. It's made of pulverized rock and volcanic glass. When it gets sucked into a jet engine running at thousands of degrees, the glass melts, re-solidifies on the turbine blades, and can shut the engine down entirely. Airlines don't take chances with volcanic ash. They can't. Air India canceled 13 flights. Akasa Air diverted and rerouted services. Flights across Gujarat, Delhi NCR, Rajasthan, Punjab, and Haryana were affected. Aircraft that had flown near the ash cloud were pulled from service for engine inspections. And by Wednesday, the plume was heading toward China. A single volcano in the Ethiopian desert, one that no living human had ever seen erupt, was disrupting air travel across 3 continents. But the ash cloud was only part of what came out. According to NASA and the Global Volcanism Program, the eruption released approximately 0.2 teragrams of sulfur dioxide. That's 220,000 tons. Sulfur dioxide is invisible. You can't see it in a photograph. But when it enters the upper atmosphere, it reacts with water vapor to form tiny droplets of sulfuric acid, which can reflect sunlight and, in large enough quantities, actually cool the planet's surface. This eruption wasn't large enough to cause measurable global cooling, but it was large enough to be tracked by European Space Agency satellites for over a week, drifting as far as northern India and remaining detectable until December 1st. Now let's talk about why this eruption happened at all, because it didn't come completely out of nowhere, not to the scientists who were paying attention. Just 7 miles to the northwest of Haile Gubi sits Erta Ale, one of Africa's most continuously active volcanoes, famous for its persistent lava lake that has been roiling for decades. In July 2025, Erta Ale erupted in a shower of ash and lava. And here's the critical detail. After that eruption, scientists used a technique called interferometric synthetic aperture radar to track what the magma was doing underground. What they found was alarming. The magma from Erta Ale didn't just stay put. It propagated southward, traveling more than 18 miles beneath the surface, pushing directly under Haile Gubi and beyond. Think about that. One volcano's eruption sent a river of molten rock underground, silently, invisibly, straight into the plumbing system of a volcano that hadn't erupted since the Ice Age. Starting in late July, scientists at the Center for Observation and Modeling of Earthquakes, Volcanoes, and Tectonics noticed subtle signs at Haile Gubi. White clouds lingering in the summit crater, small sulfur dioxide emissions, the ground rising by several centimeters. These were whispers. And 4 months later, the whisper became a scream. But here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. This eruption wasn't just unusual because of how long the volcano had been silent. It was unusual because of what kind of volcano Haile Gubi is. Shield volcanoes aren't supposed to do this. They're supposed to ooze. They produce slow, spreading lava flows, not explosive columns of ash that reach the stratosphere. As Juliet Biggs, an earth scientist at the University of Bristol, told Scientific American, seeing a big eruption column from this type of volcano is genuinely rare. So what happened? According to Encyclopedia Britannica's analysis, the answer lies in Haile Gubi's unusual chemistry. While most shield volcanoes are built entirely from basalt, Haile Gubi also contains silica-rich rocks like trachyte and rhyolite. And rhyolite-rich magma is viscous. It traps gas. Pressure builds beneath the surface with nowhere to go. And when that pressure finally releases, it doesn't ooze. It explodes. 12,000 years of accumulating pressure, meeting a fresh injection of magma from a neighboring volcano. The result was inevitable. The eruption reshaped the mountain itself. Landsat 9 satellite imagery taken the next day showed that the blast had enlarged Haile Gubi's existing crater and created 2 entirely new craters to the southeast. Ash deposits blanketed the older lava flows on the volcano's slopes. The landscape looked different from space. On the ground, the aftermath was devastating for local communities. Villages across the Afar region were coated in a thick layer of ash. Residents reported respiratory problems. Grass and water sources for livestock were contaminated. A local administrator named Mohammed Said told reporters that while no human lives or livestock had been lost, the grazing land was buried. For a community of pastoralists whose entire economy depends on their animals finding forage, a blanket of volcanic ash is an economic catastrophe in slow motion. And the eruption subsided by November 25th. 2 days. That's all it took to remind the world what a sleeping volcano can do. But here's the part of this story that nobody wants to say out loud. Haile Gubi is not special. It's not the only volcano that has been sleeping for thousands of years. There are roughly 1,350 potentially active volcanoes worldwide. Many of them sit in remote areas with little monitoring. Many haven't erupted within recorded history, and as Ariana Soldati, a volcanologist at North Carolina State University, told Scientific American, so long as the conditions for magma to form still exist, a volcano can erupt even if it hasn't done so in 1,000 years, or 10,000 years. And there's something even bigger happening in the Afar. The tectonic plates aren't just shifting, they're splitting. The African and Arabian plates are pulling apart at roughly half an inch per year. It sounds slow. It's not. In 2005, a 60-kilometer-long rift tore open in the Afar region in just days. Scientists now believe that in a few million years, the Afar Depression will flood with seawater, splitting the Horn of Africa from the rest of the continent and forming an entirely new ocean. The eruption of Haile Gubi isn't just a volcanic event. It's a birth pang, the slow, violent beginning of an ocean that doesn't exist yet. So what came out of a volcano that slept for 12,000 years? Ash that crossed continents, sulfur that lingered for weeks, glass shards that could kill a jet engine, and a message. The message is simple. The Earth doesn't operate on human timescales. We measure danger in years, maybe decades. The planet measures it in millennia. And silence, geological silence, is not the same thing as safety. It never was. Right now, somewhere on this planet, another volcano that hasn't erupted since before civilization began is sitting quietly. The ground above it might be rising by a few centimeters. There might be white clouds forming in a crater that nobody is watching. And the magma beneath it might be moving. The question is whether anyone is paying attention.